I was actually warned before going into the ward, don't be too shocked, don't appear to be too shocked. But it was
how bad were their injuries?
very bad, and there were multiple trauma, injuries internally and also externally, quite visibly.
How
Shrapnel
old were those
damage.
girls?
There were 3 girls. One was 3 years old, just 3 years old. She was brought in by herself. I understand later one of her parents joined her, but initially she was very scared and alone. And then the other girl was 12 and the other one was 13.
Now, Israel, Syria, enemy countries. Okay, Syria is going through this turmoil. It's wonderful that the Nahariya hospital is helping them. My question is, how do they even get there?
Well, this is the big question. There's the IDF obviously helps, but the extent
the IDF
of
being the Israeli Defense Forces,
Yes.
how can they help? Because it's so dangerous to even seem to be involved.
Yes, well, what we do know is that there is a field hospital on the Israeli-Syrian border where the most urgent cases are treated straight away. How they're transferred, this is shrouded in mystery. No one talks about it. No one really wants to discuss this. But from what I understand from talking to people in Syria, as well as in Israel, is that it is well known within Syria that the most extreme cases of patients, yes, they can actually be transferred.
Now,
over.
I want to talk about these 3 girls because I think we, around the world, we tend to forget that in Syria, it's going on for 2 years. People mostly affected by it, killed by it, are the civilians.
Yes,
and you said
exactly.
one was 3 years old?
Just 3 years old. And what we don't talk about often enough is actually the amount of children that have been injured.
Exactly. Now, what was the story of these girls?
Well, again, that one of the girls was walking to the supermarket with her brothers, and all she remembers is hearing a big blast flying up high in the air, and then waking up and finding herself in Israel. This is the common story. There's very often a blast injury.
Yeah.
With the 3-year-old, I understand there was a big explosion that injured and killed many members of her close family. So this is why she was brought in initially by herself.
A 3-year-old girl,
Yes.
in a hospital, was her family with her? Was anybody?
No one at all. Out of the 3 girls, only one had her aunt with them. And I met this aunt. She was absolutely lovely. She was very grateful for the help that she was given, and she was looking after all 3 girls, even though she didn't know them before.
So the 3-year-old girl, if you said her injuries were severe?
Yes, very severe. You could see visibly. And I understand I came to see her a bit later on in the later stages of her treatment. But initially she was crying out, calling her for her mother. And the day I came, she actually sat up and started eating and asking for some bread and so on. But the staff there have been remarkable.
Yeah, speaking of the staff, they, when you got such a small child, this is a trauma one can't even imagine.
Exactly.
And somebody there speaking Arabic to them?
Yes, plenty of staff speaking Arabic. Not only that, I understand a lot of the staff, for instance, there was an educational person who teaches children in hospital. She volunteered her time outside of her regular working hours to come in. She would bring in books, music, DVDs. I understand with the little girl, she brought in some Arabic music, and the little girl actually started moving her body in response because she recognized the song that she was playing.
Does a child like that, who obviously has been suffering, lives in a war zone, but wakes up in a place completely different, do they realize where they are, the girls?
The little girl, no. The 12 and the 13-year-old realized, and they were terrified, very, very scared. With one of the girls, you could really see it. She was pale from all her injuries and the operations she had, but also very, very tense. The other girl I saw has been there for a longer amount of time, and she was already interacting with the doctors, and the doctor would say something to her in Hebrew, she would reply Beseda in Hebrew.
She already understands it.
Yeah, but one of the things that the doctors emphasize is what's the hardest thing to overcome, as well as the injuries, is the anxiety that children feel, because some of them have been brought up to think that Israel is this big monster across the border, and suddenly you have doctors treating you.
No, you're blown up, and then you wake up at the big monster across the border.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's a wonderful thing that I think the Nahariya hospital is doing, and that it's people are able to sneak them across the border. How many approximately children or injured people? Because it's not just children, is it?
No, not just children. Over 100 people have been treated. We don't know the exact numbers, and it's not just Nahariya Hospital. I believe Ziv Hospital in Tzfat treats over 80% of all the people that are brought in from Syria. but obviously there are many more that are not getting this treatment. I mean, these 3 girls I met are incredibly lucky.
Yeah, that they managed to stick it through.
And the children in Syria, they don't only go through injuries, they're often killed, or if not, sometimes they're tortured if they're suspected of being affiliated with one side or the other.
No, it's a point of light in a very awful ongoing situation. Ina, thank you so much for joining us today and bringing us the story. We will be back shortly with